I'm Patti Browne, and you are in the strategy room. Donald Trump remains at the top of many GOP primary polls, but Florida Senator Marco Rubio seems to be gaining momentum. Rubio's performance in the Republican debates and his campaign style are getting attention from voters, and that is leading to a more intense look at his record. As the senator steps into the national spotlight, will he rise or fall? Here with reaction, political strategists Ratner and Adam Goodman. Thank you both for being with us.
Thank you.
Real Clear Politics describes Rubio as, quote, the candidate the GOP may need. He is a young, charismatic Latino who embodies the American dream, is fluent in foreign policy, and hasn't been around Washington long enough to reek of its repellent aspects. Adam, what do you make of Rubio's rise?
Well, I think that lead up is absolutely point on. Charismatic, great on his feet, foreign policy creds, all true. But now we go into Act Two. And Act Two, I think Marco and his team always understood was coming their way. He has the highest absentee record of any U.S. senator this year, one of the highest absentee records over the entire 6-year career he served, missing votes on foreign policy, national security, energy, education, you name it. So you might say that if there were an attack line to be used against Marco by someone who may not want to see him as president, it would probably be something like this. First he asks for the job, then he doesn't show up for work. And I think at a time when people are really distressed about Washington's inability to get things done, this is something that Marco is going to have to explain, and credibly explain, to get through successfully what I consider Act Two.
Yeah, and Ellen, this is the same criticism that we heard against President Obama, or Senator Obama at the time. He had a very high absentee rate for votes as well. And we're also hearing Jeb Bush coming after Marco Rubio, somebody who he used to speak very highly of. What about all that?
Well, I'm not as concerned about whether he showed up for votes or not. I mean, that is for his local constituents in Florida to decide. I'm more concerned about the fact that here is somebody that the Democrats last time around in 2012 thought was going to be the VP nominee. Of course, he wasn't. But also there is a generational issue here. Look, Senator Sanders, the vice president, Hillary Clinton, none of them are very young, and neither am I, but Marco Rubio is. And the fact is that this new generation, this Generation X, is getting ready, batting up for power. And I think that cannot be ignored as a huge factor in how people might vote.
Yeah, Adam, critics criticize him for being young, relatively inexperienced, but, the polls are suggesting that Republicans are looking for an outsider. Rubio, of course, is not an outsider. He's a U.S. senator, but isn't that a good thing? He knows his way around national politics, and yet he's young enough, as Real Clear Politics said, to not be jaded yet?
There are a lot of very attractive parts to Marco Rubio, and you just put your finger on probably most of them in summary. If he has to prove anything, he's got to show gravitas, what I would call wisdom beyond his years. Generational politics works for you as long as it's not an eliminator among certain generations that happen to vote in big numbers, which in presidential politics happens to be older versus younger. So that's one thing to keep an eye on. And the second thing is whether or not Marco is truly ready to serve as president of the United States. There's no question. I don't think there's any question that people look at him and say, wow, he's a comer. The question is the time now, or is he going to maybe take up another role between here and a possible, term of service in the White House?
Yeah, and people are asking the question, Ellen, is he the flavor of the month? Other Republicans, we've seen Scott Walker, obviously, and Jeb Bush at the top of the polls. Then they fell. Do you see Rubio as building his base or falling?
That's a very good question. I think really he is an outsider in many respects, and that's why I don't think his voting record is going to be as important. But this year, look at the people who have been in the top in the Republican primary so far by the polls, and the first top three are all outsiders. And, of course, Marco Rubio is an insider, but he's not really of the Beltway like some of the other particular people are. And so I think people are taking a very good look at him. And this should be an interesting race, to say the least.
Yes. Adam, last word. Obviously, those early states, the most important right now. What strategy do you think Marco Rubio needs to use to win over the primary voters there?
He needs to survive. And I'd probably make the same argument for everybody. Survive. So he may not prevail in Iowa. I don't think he's expected to, or in New Hampshire. He just has to kind of be there, strong enough to get to the next round. The big dates on the calendar, as you know, are March 1st and March 15th on the Republican side, the SEC primaries, they call it, and more importantly, the winner-take-all primaries on the 15th. I think right now America is going through a taste test. Trying out different flavors, different candidates as they rise to the top for consideration. And I think the time is now for Marco to show he deserves to get to Act 3, much less survive Act 2.
We shall see. Adam Goodman, Ellen Ratner, thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And you can check out foxnews.com for more on the 2016 presidential race. I'm Patti Browne. Thanks for watching.